What's up, guys? We got Otis Kirk in here now on the day that Chad Morris is fired by the University of Arkansas. And Otis, let's talk about a decommitment for Arkansas football. Savion Williams, he decommits from the Hogs. He's out of Marshall, Texas. This guy, a wide out. He committed to the Hogs back on May 11th.
Yeah, he did. He committed as a wide receiver, but they had injury at quarterback, so he moved over to quarterback. Actually done a pretty good job there at quarterback this year. In fact, his coach said earlier that, it's talked about if he'd moved to quarterback earlier in his career, he'd probably be recruited as a quarterback. So he's a good athlete, very good athlete. But yeah, he's going to reopen, or he has reopened his recruiting. We'll see what's out there. It doesn't mean that, eventually Arkansas couldn't get back in on him. They may not want to. I mean, so much depends on the new coach, what his philosophy is, what his needs are. And so, I think, you'll see some more decommitments. I'm sure, there'll be more, but I think some of the kids though will wait and kind of see, hey, what's out there? I mean, who are they hiring? Get to meet the coach, get to know him. I mean,
the right fit.
Yeah, it's the right fit, and I'm not sure there wouldn't have been some decommitments anyway. So I mean, the season's not gone like they wanted, and it's unfortunate for everybody, and
we go back to October, obviously. Tykees Crawford, a guy who loves the recruiting process. You've mentioned that several times on our air. And Tykees, this guy's 4-star O-lineman, and being a tackle, and for him to decommit the same day that Arkansas loses to Kentucky. So I mean, the dominoes just started to fall.
Yeah, and they even fell before that, with Capers at the receiver, and then you had some other kids. There's just been. It's been an uncertain. I mean, one thing they were selling was trust the process, and the Arkansas really need to show improvement this year.
All that.
Yeah, and they need to show improvement this year on the field, and they didn't do that, obviously, which is unfortunate for everybody and everything involved. But it's just that's the way this game works. It's about W's, and Chad and them didn't get the wins that they needed, and so it's unfortunate, but it's part of life.
You're always hitting the ground running. You're on the recruiting beat, and so you see it. Talk about the direction of recruiting now because of the impact of the early signing period.
Yeah, and that's what's changed this, and this is why there's many reasons that Hunter Yurachek has got to get the right coach, but you cannot continue to fire coaches at the pace that Arkansas has, because the early signing period has changed recruiting to the point that so many kids that will sign early that are not even going to be available in February. Used to, except for a few midterm guys, everybody was still available in February, so you could turn them in January, but that's not the case anymore. Chad found that out, his first year here. He talked about he didn't really like the early. The second year when he was established head coach, he loved the early signing period. And it's not just Chad, but I mean, that's every coach. I mean, it's a big disadvantage. But what they're going to have to do now, what I look for, Arkansas will keep some of the commitments. The new coach will have a few that he wants to bring in, just like when Chad came from Michigan. What I look for, though, in February, Arkansas may not sign a full class. Two things that have, one thing where the early signing period has changed it, Drew, I think a positive, though, is the grad transfer route. That transfer portal, grad transfer route is something that's fairly new, and I think you'll see Arkansas really hit the JUCO, not just the transfer portal, but the JUCOs hard, and also the graduate transfer route, because you can fill in some instant, you can see where your needs are, the new coach will, and you can fill in some needs pretty quickly by going that grad transfer route.
Yeah, I think
you'll see that.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's important to note the pattern, too, because I want to get your take on Devin Bush. When he decided to leave Arkansas, he's signed in the early signing period. He's one of those guys that said, hey, I'm all in Arkansas, and then after being all in Arkansas, it didn't take long for him to decide to transfer out of Arkansas.
Yeah, there's so many transfers now, and so you can pick up some kids, and it's not just the grad transfers. There's going to be some good transfers available that Arkansas could add, even if they have to sit out a year. I mean, you've got Eric Musselman's got 3 sitting out this year, over there. And I mean, you don't think, Connor Vanover will help next year, or,
that's good,
I mean, there's some good players that you may not get them eligible immediately, but they can transfer. So I think you'll see Arkansas really hit that route too. So, because there's more of that going on than used to, and there'll obviously be some kids leave Arkansas. But I think while they'll get an early setback and the rating may not be high in the initial signing period, I think you will see Arkansas's new coach be able to get some momentum and fill some needs, regardless where the class is ranked. The biggest thing is get some guys that can come in and help you. You know, be it next year, be it 2 years down the road, but they've got this hire is so important. I mean, you've got to Hunter's got to hit a grand slam on it. It doesn't have to be. You know, there's people always talk about, Bob Stoops or Urban Meyer. It doesn't have to be those guys. I mean, it's got to be somebody realistic. But regardless, it's got to be a great hire.
Yeah. You're talking about home run hires.
Exactly,
You know,
and you get the right fit.
You would mention, yeah.
Get the right fit. You can look when Memphis hired Mike Norvell. You know, Kansas State hires their coach, you know, and that was met with a lot of skepticism up in Manhattan, and that guy's a really good coach, you know. So, I mean, there's some good coaches out there, but you've got to get the one that fits your program, and it's so important. This is going to be a great hire, or have to be.
A lot of people think that a good fit would be someday maybe a guy coming back would be on staff some way, shape, or form in Alfred Davis. I mean, this guy from Hutchinson Community College, the defensive coordinator, and I know there's some guys in that program that are ones to watch.
Yeah, they've offered Jacorian Bennett, Ronald Williams, 2 defensive backs up there. I've talked to Alfred several times today. I've exchanged texts with him probably 20 times today, and you know, he wants to come back. He played here. He is proven at the junior college level. Wow. They won 56-0 yesterday over Iowa Central. They beat a team from Texas 89-0 the other night. I mean, we're talking shutouts. How many shutouts are in football right now?
Right.
You talk about any level. I'm talking about high school on up. How many shutouts?
It's so much more wide open these days.
And they're beating these teams. They won 56-0 yesterday. I mean, he's a good coach. Be perfect to plug in on that defensive line. I'm not talking about necessarily, you know, I mean, he's a defensive coordinator there, but I'm talking about his defensive line coach here. And Alfred would do a great job.
Yeah.
You know, he played here, and he's proven that he can coach. And so, yeah, and I think it's good to get people. You've got to have somebody from the state on your staff or a coach or two. It's also, it doesn't hurt to have a former player or two, because when they get in those homes, I promise you, Alfred Davis can tell kids what it takes to be a Razorback and win, because he won at this level. So that's important, and he'd be a perfect hire. I mean, I'm actually hoping Chad would hire him before, but I guess it's good now that he didn't, because he'd probably be leaving. So you know, everything works out for a reason.
Big name in recruiting, Jacoby Criswell, quarterback, really good quarterback, and this guy is committed to North Carolina. Is he in play now? I mean, clearly with the changing coaches for Arkansas upcoming, you know, you're going to see now a guy in Criswell who perhaps may be looking elsewhere. Who knows, right? Yeah,
I mean, you don't know because you don't know who the new coach is, but I think definitely, I mean, I don't think it's probably a secret that, you know, chances of Chandler Morris coming here now are probably slim to none, or lean heavily to none. So, I mean, and he was the only quarterback in this class, so, you know, I mean, obviously Criswell is a kid that you've got to look at is, you know, does he fit what the new coach wants? So, I mean, are they going to do more RPO, or, you know, is it going to be a drop back? You know, depend on who they hired. But yeah,
thing.
Yeah, I think Criswell is a guy that definitely. I mean, there's some other kids in the state. That's one thing I really wish that there's a few more kids in the state that I wish Arkansas had paid some attention, a little bit more attention to. So, and he is certainly one of them. But Criswell is a kid that I think definitely the new coach, if they're going to need a quarterback in this class, and, you know, and depending on who comes back that's there now, I think that's definitely one route that they probably will look at. Now, whether they make a strong move there, I don't know. But like I said, it depends on the new coach and what he's looking for.
Yeah.
But Criswell is one that I definitely think they could, you know, let's be honest. Mike Norvell's name's been linked to Arkansas, and, you know, it's going to continue to be till they either hire him or he goes somewhere else. But he's got a commitment from Brandon Thomas, the running back at North Little Rock. You know, so if he came here, would he bring Brandon with him? So I mean,
great question.
Recruiting is going to be so key in the future on who they hire. So I mean, but there's some guys that's being linked to Arkansas that's got ties to the state and got some commitments from the state. There's some offensive linemen in the state that are committed elsewhere that you know, it might not just be necessarily the ones you think, but there's a kid named Dalton Purdue down at El Dorado is committed to SMU. I mean, he's 6'7", 300 pounds. I mean, is that somebody Arkansas would look at? So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, potential replacements for Chad Morris. There's a story about that on hogville.net from Otis Kirk, so we'll talk more about that coming up. This is the game we get into. How many names can we throw out there, and who really is on the short list? So we'll talk more about that throughout the course of our continuing coverage as Arkansas has fired Chad Morris as head coach, and Chad with just 4 wins on the hill for the Razorbacks. All right, that'll do it here for this recruiting report. We got much more coming up after this.